I'm going to take y'all on a side mission while I'm still working on part 2 of the house fiery dragon. I want to show you the garage fiery dragon, how it operates, how bare bones it is, and I also want to show you how I process my oil before I use it. So let's go. Let me give you just a brief history on it before we get started fooling with it. Daddy built this back when I was probably 10 or 12 years old. When he got done with it, he took it out in the woods and left it in the scrap pile. Well, about 20 years later, I dig it out and decide I want to fool with it. And when I got a hold of it, it's had a rough life. I have done a lot of experimenting on it. Matter of fact, this right here, I used my MIG welder as a torch because I didn't have a torch at the time. I did my experimenting and I decided to put that plate back on the end of it. I didn't even grind it down. I just put it right back on like it was and welded it up. So that's why it looks so rough. This right here, I put a piece of pipe right here. I don't remember what I was trying to do. Apparently it didn't work, so I just plugged them holes back up. This right here is where I tried to preheat the oil, and that didn't work. I had a coil going in here. It wrapped around a couple times, come back out one of these holes. And then to the nozzle, well, that didn't work. It boiled it pretty quickly. So I abandoned that idea. But I have done a lot of experimenting, and I've learned a lot on this thing. And this is what taught me how to automate the house fiery dragon. So let me get the nozzle clean, because I hadn't run this in a year or two. Let me get the nozzle cleaned out and do some other stuff, and I'll be right back and we'll fire it up. All right, I got the nozzle back in. I got the heater block turned on. I'll explain that in a minute. But let me walk y'all through how this thing works. And remember, this is very, very ghetto. It's not automated. I have to sit here and babysit it. So just keep that in mind. Oil tank is right here. It comes up through this hose, up to this heater block right here. There's the temperature control for the heater block. I usually keep it on about 180, 185. It don't have to be that hot. I like to keep it a little warm. Anyway, it goes through the heater block and then through the nozzle. Spark plug lights it off. Siphon air comes through here. It ain't really siphon air because on this tank, I have to have 2 or 3 pounds of pressure on it because this oil's so thick it won't siphon it out. And having to have that pressure on this tank is what caused me great grief for a year or two after I got this thing automated. I'll explain that more when I show you the other burner. But anyway, this tank has got to have the 2 or 3 pounds of pressure to push the oil up to the nozzle. And like I said, this isn't really siphon air, but you've got to have it to cause the swirl and the atomization of the oil before it'll light. This stove is where I learned that you can light hot oil with a spark plug. Let me tell you about that. I used to light this thing with kerosene. I had a nozzle out of a bullet heater or torpedo heater, whatever you want to call it. And it would shoot the kerosene in the heater, and that spark plug would light it. And then the kerosene flame would light the oil. And then eventually I could turn the kerosene off and the oil would run on its own. Well, I was out here one day running it and it quit on me for whatever reason. I come over here and turned it off and plugged it right back in. Well, when I plugged it in, the kerosene was off. But of course the spark plug started firing and the sucker lit. And I'm like, how in the world did that light? And it finally dawned on me that oil was hot. Being in this nozzle holder, it got hot from just running and the sucker lit. So that's when the light went off in my head. Say, well, that's exactly how I'm gonna automate this thing and get it to ignite consistently and easily. So that's the reason for the heater block. Heat that oil up. That way it's hot enough to light off the spark plug. Now, let me show you the control panel. This is a 2x6, by the way. This is just a contact relay. I think it come out of my old air conditioning unit. 24 volt transformer. I believe it came out of my old unit. This is a timer for the spark plug. I think it's like 30 seconds before it cuts off. Ice cube relay. I think it controls the timer. And of course, there's the igniter back there. The 24 volt coil is for this relay. It's a 24 volt relay. But that's my control panel right there. Like I said, it's not automated. I have to sit here and babysit it. Let me tell you all a funny story about this stove. Before I used kerosene to light it, I was using propane. And that would be fine, except it wasn't a normal amount of propane. I've been known to do crazy stuff from time to time, and I guess this would qualify as one. See this hole right here? There used to be a 1/4 inch piece of pipe in there, and that's why I was piping the propane through. It wasn't a normal amount of propane. I don't know why I was using so much, but it wasn't. The amount of propane going through a barbecue grill, it's not much. Well, I bought a regulator, hooked it up to the propane tank, and it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 20 or 25 pounds of pressure I was pumping through this. Like I said, I don't know why, but it was. Well, sometimes it wouldn't light immediately. I guess I was pumping so much propane through it that it couldn't get any oxygen in the burner, and it wouldn't light. Well, then eventually it would light, and this stove full of propane, it'll make a pretty big boom. Well, one night I was out here fooling with it, went to fire it up, and I don't know exactly what happened. I was standing too far away from it to get to it to cut it off in time because it didn't light. And I knew that it was fixing to light and it was going to be bad. So I just squatted down in the floor, put my hands over my head, hunkered down, and just waited for the boom. Well, it finally came. It blew the elbow off, hit the ceiling, hit this light. This light used to be a regular fluorescent light, and it shattered glass all over me and all over this garage. And it likely have scared me half to death. Of course, I laughed later. But anyway, I thought that was kind of a humorous story to tell y'all. So I'm going to get y'all on the tripod now, and we're going to see if this thing will light off. That's where the elbow hit the ceiling. This is styrofoam panels, and it just cut a great big old U out of that styrofoam, and I just taped it back up with duct tape. All right, I don't know what this thing's going to do because I haven't lit it this year, so let's see what she does. We're also doing an experiment right now. In that tank is tractor fluid. I had a friend of mine give me about 30 gallons of tractor fluid, hydraulic fluid, high trim, whatever you want to call it. And I've never run it straight, and that's what's in that tank, and we're going to see if it'll run and how good it runs. All right, putting a little air pressure on the tank. I can see the oil coming up through the line. All right, I'm going to plug it in and see if we can get it to light up. Sometimes if it won't light, I have to hit it with this torch. So that's what we're going to do. Oh, there it went. Did on its own. And there's the garage fiery dragon. Of course, while it's running, I'll have to adjust the siphon air and the air pressure on that tank to get it, just right. Like I said, I have to babysit this one. Now, when this sucker gets warmed up and been running for a little while, the sides of this thing, especially right in here, will get cherry red. If I run it long enough, I'll turn the lights out and show you that. It's been running about 5 minutes now. It's plenty warm, so I got the fan turned on, get some of this hot air circulating in this garage. I was going to try to get you a shot of the flames inside there, but the camera ain't going to let me. But that's a ½ gallon an hour nozzle in there now. I used to run a 1 gallon an hour nozzle. And buddy, you talking about getting hot and doing it quick. I thought I'd bring y'all outside and show you that it's just barely smoking. They just don't hardly smoke at all, and I'm amazed at that. Burning oil and it just barely smokes. I don't know if you'll be able to tell by the picture, but you can tell by the sound. See how it sounds right now? It's about to go out because I don't have enough pressure on the tank. I'm going to turn the pressure up and listen to it to the sound change. See it change right there? That's what I mean by you've got to babysit this thing. All right, see how much it's smoking there now? That's because I just turned that air pressure up and I've got too much on it now. That's the problem I had with the old automated system, and the new system pretty much took care of all of that. All right, there's the front of the stove, and right, you can just barely see it glowing on the camera, but for some reason it shows up with a picture. So I'm gonna take a picture and put it up here, and you can see that it's starting to glow red. This thing sure can be aggravating. It's flickering right now, burning lean, about to go out. And you can give it just a little bit of air pressure on that tank, and it'll be burning rich here in just a minute, smoking like a freight train. But anyway, I just wanted to show y'all the operations of this one, and also see if that tractor fluid would burn. Apparently it will, so now I can mix it in with my regular oil and be just fine. I told y'all I've got a bird in my garage too. He's hopping and flying around here. He's mad because I'm in here. I don't know if you can see. He won't be still long enough for me to show you. See him right there? Well, where'd he go? I hear him. There he is. That fool bird is flying around everywhere in here. This is the first time I've seen him. Well, I saw him one time like 2 months ago, but that's how warm it's been here. Is it ain't even been cold enough for him to want to come in this garage. There's the crazy fool right there now. That sure is a pretty sunset right there. Before it gets dark, let me show y'all what I go get my oil in and how I process it. This right here is a 270 gallon tote on a little trailer that I built. This right here is my pumping apparatus. That's an 8-horse Briggs & Stratton. And that right there is a big block Chevrolet high volume oil pump. And let me tell you, it's a pumping son of a gun. It'll pump down a 55 gallon drum with this big suction hose. It'll pump it down in about 5 minutes. And that's saying a lot for, you know, oil, because it's thick. Of course, I got a filter on it to keep trash and whatnot from getting in my pump, because I've sucked up screws and stuff before and it locked my pump up. As you can see, it's just about full, so it's about time to pump it into the garage, and let me show you what I do there. Actually, let me show you this first. I've got this piece of PVC pipe right there, a hose going over there, and it runs in the side of the garage. I stick that in the top of this tote, and that's what I suck it out with. Let me take you inside and show you what I got inside. Here's what's inside the garage, and let me show you all it. That's a small block Chevrolet oil pump, and I think that's a 1/2 horse electric motor turning it. Here's the line coming from outside that hose I showed you. All this apparatus here is a bunch of valves. They're acting like 3-way valves, so I can pump going or coming. Now what I do is I pump the oil from the tote outside into this barrel. It's turned upside down, and it's got a funnel welded to the bottom. The reason I do this is I pump it in here, and all the sludge and water will settle to the bottom, and then I'll open this valve right here just a little bit and let all the water out. And then once I get all the water out, I will pump this barrel into my holding totes outside. What I've got in this barrel right now is that tractor fluid that I talked about. So what I'm going to do right now is pump it from this barrel to one of my totes outside. So let me get set up, and I'll do that real quick. What I do first is get that piece of pipe that I showed you, get it stuck down in here, and then I'll go inside and I'll turn my pump on, and we'll pump that barrel into this tote. I got 2 totes there. Those are my holding tanks. All I have to do in here is plug the motor into the extension cord, but make sure that valve is open, because that's where it's coming out of the barrel. And then make sure all these are going the right way. Let me tell you a little funny story about that. I had that other pump in here, the tote on the trailer out there. I had it in here working on it one day, and there's a valve on the bottom of that tote. Well, when I got done working on it, I started it up to make sure it was going to pump. I forgot to open that valve on that tote, and it took it about 3 seconds to build up enough pressure to blow the hose off, and it soaked this entire garage. I don't know how well you can see it, but the black spots, that's oil, that ain't mold. From where that thing exploded on, it got oil everywhere, all over me. It splattered all over the wall. It was a mess. If you ever think that you want to fool with these oil burning stoves, let me tell you, it's a messy, messy job. Anyway, let me get this thing plugged in and we'll start pumping this oil out of this barrel into the tote out there. By the way, I've got a sight glass on the side of this here. That way I know about, where I'm at. And then I'll climb up here looking at funnel, and when it gets to the top, I'll unplug it, and there we go. So let me plug this in and get some oil pumped. This pump don't pump nowhere near as good as that other one. It's because I'm using a smaller hose, and there's like a 1/2 inch rubber hose right there at the pump, and that really slows it down. It takes about 15 minutes to pump that barrel down. As soon as that barrel gets done pumping down, I'll take that piece of pipe and put it back in this tote, the one on the trailer, and I'll pump from it to the barrel inside and let it settle, for a day or two, get all the sludge, water, let it settle to the bottom, drain it off, and then pump that into one of these holding tanks over here. That's just an absolutely gorgeous sunset. Sure am glad I live in Tennessee. Got all my valves swapped now so I can pump coming into the barrel. So let's plug it in, plug it in. All right, that pump is the one that was over there on the barrel. Well, it got to pumping really, really slow. Well, on the video, it's that slow. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I finally decided to take the pump off, and I think I might have found the problem. It's completely stopped up. I don't know what that is. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you get when you go get oil from people. I mean, it's just part of it. That's why I've got the filter on the one on the trailer. And it looks like I'm gonna have to put a filter on this side too. And also, I have broke the PVC over here. It cracked right here. I laid on it a little bit too hard when I was getting the pump out. Cracked it right here, so I cut this off, because let me tell you a story about this. A couple of years ago, see this nail up here? There used to be a grease gun hanging from it. I come in here, grabbed it one day, and it slipped out of my hand, and it fell right on top of this PVC. It broke it here, it broke it off back there, and this barrel was full. And the only thing I could do was put my hand over the broken pipe and use my other hand to get my phone out of my pocket and call somebody to come bring me several 5-gallon buckets. Well, anything, any kind of container, and rags, and stay dry. And that was a mess, because before I could get to it, it had done dumped probably 5 or 10 gallons on the floor, and it was everywhere. Like I said, this is a very messy job. So I think what I'm going to do is just get rid of all this, and I'm going to get me some actual 3-way valves, and it'll clean this up, and I think it'll be better. So I can't process no more oil until I get that done. Also, the trash that I just got out of that pump over there, it most likely came from an individual. I get oil. I got one guy that runs a bulldozer, and he pulls that bulldozer with a semi. So I get 50 to 100 gallons a year from him. I got another guy I used to work with. He runs a farm. I'll get 50 to 100 gallons from him every year too. I've got several individuals that change their own oil, and they'll save it up and bring it to me every year or two. All they do is pour it back into the gallon jug or the 5-quart jug, whatever. And I got another friend, well, the one that gave me all the tractor fluid, brings it in 5-gallon buckets. Well, I just pour it straight in this funnel right here, and that's most likely where that trash come from. It didn't come out of the tank outside because it's already filtered. So that's the only place it could have come from, was me pouring buckets and jugs straight into this barrel. So I'm gonna have to come up with some kind of filter for this funnel right here to keep that from happening again. Amazon just delivered this LED light a few minutes ago while I was out here in the garage. It's supposed to be a 200 watt equivalent for halogen replacement, you know, like in work lights. Hell, I ain't sure that's 200 watts. It's also daylight, which I like daylight. This here's a, I don't know, soft white, cool white, something like that. This is 150 watts. This is supposed to be 200 watts. I guess it's not bad. It's not 200 watts, but it's not bad. I just thought I'd let you see that in case you decide to buy some of them. The other night when we were running the garage fire dragon, it didn't seem quite right. And last year even, I never could get it to do exactly right. It sort of pitter patters, and it just don't run right. I can't run it as hot as I used to. And I've been scratching my head trying different things, trying to figure out what was wrong. Well, I think I found out what's wrong, and let me show you. This stove pipe right here has rusted through right here on this seam where it goes together, and you can see through it, and that's not letting it pull a good draft, and that's why I can't run it as hot as I used to. And I believe it's been like that for a couple of years. So I'm gonna change that piece of pipe out, and we'll fire it up and see if it does any better. I'm fixing to fire this one up and see if that new stove pipe is gonna make it run like it should. But while it's warming up, let me show you a couple of changes I made. I found this filter, so I put it on here. Oh, it's leaking too. I gotta fix that. And I had just a regular old regulator. Well, see how big this one is? This is considered a precision regulator. That diaphragm makes it a lot more sensitive. Therefore, it'll keep better control. It's only rated to, like, I want to say 30 PSI. And it's, perfect for what I'm doing. It just wasn't good enough on the old system. So now that I'm not using it on that, I put it on here, and it should make it run a little bit better. So as soon as that temperature right there warms up on that heater block, we'll fire it up and see if it runs any better. I can already tell that it's running 100 times better now. It was doing a pitter patter, flitter flutter type deal, and that's gone. So I believe she's going to run good now and warm this garage up real good. All this came in to redo the plumbing on the barrel in the garage so I can process some more oil. I'm waiting on one more fitting. It's a bushing from 1.5 to inch. And this hose, I bought it on Amazon. It is really, really flimsy. It's supposed to be rated to a working pressure of 145, burst pressure of 435. Well, I question that, but we may see an oil explosion out there in the garage when I get this hooked up. But if that other fitting comes in, I'm going to try to get that plumbed up tonight and include it in the video. This is Mo, by the way. He was trying to get these fittings up here a minute ago. I had to have a little talk with him. He's a heathen. All my stuff come in to fix that right there. Let me get all this put together over here, and then maybe we can get some oil pumping in that barrel right there. Well, I just pulled this hose out of the package, and there's no way I can use it on the suction side. It's just really, really flimsy. So I went out to the shed out back, and I found this. This is actual braided hose that you can use for suction side. So I'm going to use that on the pressure side, and we'll use that on the suction side. And I should have it up and running here in just a few minutes. I'm going to show y'all a little trick you might not know about. This hose is really, really stiff. That's what I want on the suction side. But sometimes it's a little too hard to get it on the fitting. So what you want to do is take a torch, heat the end of this up, and it'll slip right on. Let me show you. Now you don't want to burn it, you want to catch it on fire. Just heat it up where it'll be pliable. And it should slip right on. Look at there. Don't say I never taught you anything. Alright, I got that plumbed up. I had enough of this old hose to use it on everything, and I'm glad, because that crap I got from Amazon, it's just too flimsy. I'll save it and use it on something eventually. But all this is I just got two three-way valves, a diverter valve, whatever you want to call it. You just turn the handle whichever way you want it to go. Also, I got a little bit of oil in this tank. I want to pump it out, and then I want to time it and see how long it takes to fill this barrel up, because this is a better setup now. The pump ain't restricted like it was, so it should pump a little faster. So let me get this oil out of this tank. I'll come back and we'll get a timer on it and see how quick it'll fill it up. I already got my stopwatch right here on my phone. I went to start and plug it in, plug it in. I'll be back in a few minutes and let you know how it did. I'm not sure, there might still be something wrong with that pump. It's really, really loud. It didn't used to be like that. We're getting close. I'll come back in just a second because I only got two hands. And it is completely full. Took 11 minutes and 8 seconds. It's not bad, but I think it used to pump a little faster than that. What I might do after I get the water and sludge off of this barrel of oil, pump it into the holding tanks, and then pull that pump off again. I didn't tear it apart last time. I just pulled all that stuff out of the end of it. I might tear it apart, make sure there's nothing wrong inside, no trash or nothing. And if it ain't and everything looks good, well then 11 minutes is the best it's going to do. Alright, this barrel's been sitting here for, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. And it doesn't take long for the water to start settling out. So let's just see if there's any in it. Nope, that's pure oil right there. So I can probably go ahead and pump that in the holding tank, but I'm gonna let it sit here for another day or two anyway. And if I don't get any water off of it then I know it's good for sure. Well, I've pretty much showed you all I can on the garage fire dragon. Showed you how I process my oil. I'm really anxious to get part 2 of the house fire dragon up, and we can see how it's going to run. I can walk you through the whole operation of it, all the controls and all the safety stuff, and that'll be coming pretty soon. I appreciate you watching this video. Hope you liked it. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll know when the next video is coming. And until next time, go do something.